Looks like you're ready. Here we go. Okay, that's working. You're live. Okay, I'm ready to go. Are you ready? Is everybody ready? I'm going to let people in. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. Aloha Friday. We're just letting a few people in and then we're going to get started. So it's really great to have you all out today. I'm going to record this session because there are people that wanted to make it and couldn't. So we will take care. We're also live streaming this on YouTube. And I'd like to thank my trusty assistant, Chris, who's sitting right here, who's going to help with any tech issues. So if you have any problems at all, feel free to chat and she'll be monitoring that. So cool. All right. We'll just one more minute and then we'll get started. All right. Uh-oh. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here. But thank you guys for joining our training day at Mindlink Resources. This is something we do once a year just to kind of sync up with, you know, all of the parties that we work with, our clients, our team, linguists that work with us. It's just a time to kind of sync up, get a little inspiration, talk through language access, you know, and talk about what we do and, you know, get your input on what we can do better for you. So we really appreciate you all being here. And today our agenda, which, can you see the agenda here? Am I sharing the right screen? Does that look okay, Chieko? Yes. Okay, awesome. And I'm going to introduce our team as we go along. So, but let's talk about the agenda and then I'll get going. So this morning we're going to talk about, we have a few presentations we're going to go over. I totally get you're all busy. If you need to hop in and out, that's okay. You know, we can keep an eye on that. But like I said, we're recording everything and then it's going to be available on YouTube after today. So, you know, take care of what you got to take care of. No pressure. I mean, we love having you live because we get the best interaction and comments and, you know, but, you know, we also respect people's time. So anyway, I'm going to give some remarks at the beginning about our theme, which is working upstream. Then Val's going to be talking about quality translations. Patricia is going to get into planning inclusive meetings, and we'll have a little break. And then Agnes, Agnes is our teammate, and she's actually located in Poland. So we have a recording for her, but it's going to be really valuable. I was taking a look at that today. And then last, this morning, Chieko is going to talk about some technology, including Linguist, which is our tool that we use, but also just some other tips and tricks on how to kind of manage language access using the technology that you have available. Then we'll do a break for lunch. And then this afternoon, we're going to get a little more deeper into the tech part. We're going to do a couple of breakout rooms. One, if you really want to get some tips on Linguist and get some additional training, if you have questions, things like that, this would be a great opportunity to hop into breakout room 2 with Chieko. She's waving. Chieko's our systems developer, and yeah, we're really lucky to have her. And then Val's gonna talk about some WordBee tips and tricks for those of you who might do some translation or just curious about our computer aided translation tool that we use behind the scenes. We're gonna talk through how that works. And then over here, I'm going to talk about Boostlingo, which is our on-demand interpreting tool. So if you're interested in either providing on-demand interpreting or receiving on-demand interpreting or making that available for your clients in your community, we'll talk about that. And then also some terminology management. So that's going to be our day. We're super excited to have you guys. I'm going to keep everybody on mute, but if you do want to comment, after that, we're going to do an activity, but you'll just hang out with us and we'll talk more about that. But feel free to comment or raise your hand, and we'll keep an eye on that so that we can get your participation as well. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into my presentation. Okay, one really quickly, I'm going to rename Chris. Okay, cool. All right, I'm Stacy. I'm here at the Mindlink headquarters, which is my home in just outside of Camas, Washington, outside of Vancouver, Washington, just across the bridge from Portland. And so yeah, we're 10 minutes from the Portland airport, 15, I guess, if you're not speeding. And I am the founder and owner and whatever of Mindlink Resources. We founded the company back in 2011, and we've really shifted over the years. In the last 5 years, 6 years, we've really shifted into the language access space, which is what we're going to be training about today. And so my background is more in the tech field. I worked at Hewlett Packard, at Intel, and some other tech companies. And so I kind of bring that perspective into, the language access field. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. You can learn more about me on my website, which is the mindlinkresources.com. And today our theme is going to be working upstream. And here it is. I'm basing a lot of it. I don't know if you guys have heard of this book. Sorry, my thing blurs it out. But this has been this is a book called Upstream, written by Dan Heath. And this is kind of my framework for my remarks this morning and sort of our theme of the conference. Because anyway, I highly recommend this book. It gives you all the way more details than I'm going to get into today about how we can solve problems before they happen, right? And I think in the language access space, we've certainly come into those scenarios. So I'm going to jump into my remarks, but first I'm going to find the window that I need, which is here. Awesome. Okay. So thank you guys for, we haven't done this in a virtual setting yet, so we're learning, but we appreciate you bearing with us. Okay, so let's talk about working upstream. And I want to start with kind of a morbid parable. Okay, not a true story. So it's a little bit morbid, but I just want to say that. So the parable is, you and a friend are having a picnic by the side of a river. Suddenly you hear a shout from the direction of the water. A child is drowning. Without thinking, you both dive in, grab the child, and swim to shore. Before you can recover, you hear another child cry for help. You and your friend jump back in the river to rescue her as well. Then another struggling child drifts into sight, and another and another. The two of you can barely keep up. Suddenly, you see your friend wading out of the water, seeming to have left you alone. Where are you going? You demand. Your friend answers, I'm going upstream to tackle the guy who's throwing these kids in the water. And I think it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of dark. It's a little bit morbid about drowning children. However, I think it's so true that we're so busy just dealing with the problems that are right in front of us that we forget to stop and look upstream to see what might be causing that problem. And there's a lot of reasons why, and that's what we're going to talk about today in my presentation. But one of the issues, and Dan Heath talks about this in his book, that downstream work is actually easier to see, and so that it's more tangible, and so it's kind of easier to just deal with when things just show up in front of your face, right? And so and sometimes doing things upstream is a little more ambiguous, and I know sometimes it's frustrating. Your organizations don't always value the upstream work, and so we'll talk about that as well. But let's think about the difference between that downstream work and upstream work in the context of language access. Downstream work is reactive. So we see this a lot in language access, where the intentions are really good, but the outcome is not. And one of the things that comes up a lot with most of the clients that we work with, there's a lot of frustrations around rush jobs, short notice, things like that. And like for translation jobs, you need 5,000 words translated in 2 days. Well, you're not going to get the level of quality in that kind of job as you would if you gave it more time and more space to get done. And so that's kind of an example of like something that would be, downstream. We get those kind of requests from our clients and we try to get those done for them, right? So that's us being reactive to those requests. But if we were really to have our choice and we're to think about this content, weeks before, we could plan that out, and we know it's not going to be ready until this day, and then we'll have it translated. But maybe there's things we could do to prepare to make the quality better and to save you some costs too. Same with interpretation appointments. We run into that a lot, where it's like, I need somebody in an hour, and that's really hard. And many times you're not going to get that appointment filled. Right now, at least in the Portland area, and I believe throughout Oregon and Washington, there's a shortage of interpreters, and certainly a shortage of interpreters willing to go on site. So if you need somebody in an hour on site, it's probably not going to happen. And so that's kind of an example of, reactive. Were there things that, you could have done in advance to kind of prepare for that, plan for that, and get somebody in there? Probably, most likely. So it's just the lack of collaboration is another issue, especially when it comes to like translation. I mean, we could get into all of these like funny, if you go to like chinglish.com, you see lots of funny examples of translations, that have happened where obviously it's an embarrassing mistake. It has like costly implications to that brand. For example, the car Nova, when they marketed that car in Mexico, Nova in Spanish is Nova, which is, it doesn't go, which is not a good example, and there's other like major brands like that marketed in like China. There's one with Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, where the slogan was, instead of finger licking good, which is what it is here, they just translated directly and said, you're going to lick your fingers off, and so these kind of things happen all the time. I mean, there's whole websites devoted to this. So you don't want those embarrassing mistakes. And, I think there's so many tools out there that sort of tempt us, like Google Translate, and now like AI. I mean, these are getting better and better all the time. However, you still cannot guarantee that they're not going to, reflect your tone, say what you want to say, or say it in a way that might be either embarrassing or even offensive. So, you have to really consider, if I want to use humans, that's something I decide upstream. and then we figure out how we're gonna handle that. Upstream work involves systems thinking, right? And so these are intended to prevent problems before they happen. And I think, when you've been doing language access work for a while, you sort of, can kind of anticipate, and those of us, here at Mindlink, we do this every day, all day. And so sometimes we're like, oh, I wish our clients would have asked us about X, Y, or Z. And because we could have helped them. And so upstream is really important. And so, to kind of think it through, come up with solutions beforehand, like maybe you do need rush stuff, but maybe it's like, okay, maybe we can contact 3 or 4 people who we know are going to be available, one of them during that time, so you can quickly access that person. There's solutions for every scenario. We just have to kind of think of that. So, and there's definitely things we can do to like train our users, train requesters, train our teachers or educators that might be using our system, so that they understand our challenges, so that they can work with us on upstream thinking. So those are kind of the difference. And I think a lot of times we find ourselves in this reactive state way too much. So let's talk about some of these barriers that we run into with upstream thinking. And I'm going to have to ask Chris to watch the time for me, because my eyes aren't what they used to be, and I can't see the little clock on my. Okay. Let me know when it's like 9:30 or 9:25. Okay, so barriers to upstream thinking. One is, and he talks about this, Dan talks about this in his book. So I definitely recommend these chapters. But one is problem blindness, which is like the belief that negative outcomes are natural or inevitable or out of our control. And that, I think, happens a lot, where it's just like, well, it's like the weather. Oh, it's really, rainy today. There's nothing we could do. Okay, yeah, there is nothing you could do about the weather, but there are things we can do about language access issues, right? And providing language access for our communities. And so, some of that is just our beliefs, right? Another one is lack of ownership, which is kind of like, that's not my job. That's not my mind to fix. And, that's a hard one, because, with language access, I mean, let's face it, we have some obligations to provide meaningful access in the native language of our communities, even if it's not English. But there's still a lot of non-compliance with that, a lot. And depending where you live, even more than a lot, right? And so, like, what can we do? Obviously, you're here today because you have some passion around this topic, which I really appreciate. But it's like, just think if the whole community came together and was like, we want to include these people, how are we going to do it? Think of the power of that, instead of just like, well, that's somebody else's job. I think that's the fallacy that we find ourselves in. A couple other things. One is tunneling, where we're so busy, and I am guilty of this. You're so busy just kind of dealing with the day-to-day stuff that you don't like stop and think strategically, right? And so I think that's a hard one to get out of. And I added this. Dan Heath did not have this in his book, but I added this because I think in language access, this is definitely a factor of why things don't get done. And some of that is our own biases. And sometimes we have biases we don't even realize we have, those as implicit biases or unconscious biases, and things. I mean, there's some blatant ones you hear, like, well, you're in America, you should learn English. Well, I hate to say it, but that is still something we hear, right? And so that's a bias, and that stops us from like really thinking, how do we include people, even if they don't speak English fluently? Or another one is like, well, they're from Mexico and they speak English. Well, they may speak English, but they may not feel comfortable going to a medical appointment and understanding all of the complex phrases or a legal appointment, or even like in an education environment, like some of these IEP meetings are very complex. And so they may speak great English, but not those terms. And so they need an interpreter there. And so never assume, and also I think there's still a stigma from a lot of our community members for asking for what they need, right? And so it's important that we offer that to them. Because I think there's sort of like, well, if I ask for an interpreter, does that mean I'm, not as smart or whatever? It's like, actually, you speak 2 languages, you're smart, but it's okay to ask for help. And that's why we're here. And so anyway, so bias is something to definitely keep in mind and keep in check. So what can we do to move our work upstream? Here's just a few ideas. There's many ideas. One is unite people in your community. And I really think we need to cast a wide net to get the kind of input that we need for our language access. There was this article, I'll make this available to you guys, about in the city of Seattle. It talks about kind of like in the pandemic, all the things that we learned about what people don't have access to. And, one of the things, I'll just read this quote about a language access program and policy specialist in the city of Seattle. She said, "We should think about how to connect people to resources. Many people don't have time to really sit down and search for some more information. Some of them don't even know what keywords to put in their search engine. So she suggests that we create supportive communities composed of immigrants with similar backgrounds. And those are the people that would establish a strong bond among them, enabling them to offer mutual support and exchange information with one another." What a great upstream idea, right? Instead of just like translating for them, like that's not helpful. Like, let's think bigger. How do we include them? And she also said that it's important for us to center the most marginalized communities. What does that mean, to center those communities? It means to get their input, talk to them, do a survey, understand what their needs are, what they need. Compared with upper and lower classes, the interests of the middle class are more easily overlooked, according to this article. They emphasize the significance of adopting an intersectional approach with developing policies. For example, middle-income South Asians should also be given attention. And this is an example. You think, of that bias. Like you think, they don't need it. They speak English. Yeah, but do they speak, are the English we use in the complex terminology we use in an educational setting? We don't know. Centering those people who are hit the hardest will be able to create policies and programs that work for all people. So like I said, I'll share this link in the chat here so that it's a really good article. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's kind of depressing, but it gives a great example of that upstream thinking in a language access context and how to unite people. Another thing is look at your workflows. How do you make assignments? How do you receive requests? How do you schedule requests? How do you work with your interpreters? How do you work with your translators? Are you doing a lot of repeatable tasks that could be done in a tool? Are you using tools too much where you're not using a human voice, And so that's like a balance that you have to kind of find, but like, take a look, and everyone on this call is involved in this workflow at some phase, right? And so think about how that, and one of the things I notice a lot in this industry, in translation and interpretation especially, you have a lot of very overworked project managers and schedulers and people that are just like frazzled. Shouldn't be that way. If everybody's providing the right information and thinking upstream, we could really limit the stress level. I mean, we have a high turnover in project managers. Really skilled people, have trouble. And that's because they get so overworked. So if you see that, that's a symptom right? If you see your team like stressing out, that's a symptom that maybe you could think about a better way to do things. Create important measures. This is something I think is grossly lacking with the language access. Like, what are you tracking? How do you know things are happening, helpful, healthy, right? Are you tracking the number of requests you do a month? Are you looking at your fill rates of what appointments get requested and what you're filling? Are you looking at this data? Are you using it to think about better ways to handle it? And with the measure thing, I think it's really important to say they need to be good and meaningful measures. And the way to understand the best way to measure goes back to that team, getting the input from the people who matter. That's going to help you define those measures. Another thing is ask for feedback, having a feedback loop. And I really like, something we've been talking about in some of our districts that we work with are not just providing feedback to the linguist providing the service or the company providing the service, but the feedback for the whole process where like the linguist could actually give feedback to the requester. Hey, next time, don't forget to include this information, or next time, please include it, an attachment, so that we can all work better, right? To make it a better system. And I really like that concept. And it's great to have like a scale, 1 to 5. How are we doing? So that, again, that gives you those data points that you can go back to and refer to later. So I don't want to take up the whole time, and we're already at 9:29. I found a bigger clock, so I can see that. Yay. But I just want to talk briefly about building that community with Mindlink, our team. Some of you may be less familiar with what we do as a whole, as our company. So we have a description here that it's our elevator pitch. But Mindlink provides high quality translation interpretation services to help non-English speaking community members resolve problems, learn, connect, feel included, experience equity, and thrive. And I like that because that's what our goal is, because I know that's what your goal is, right? And so we want to work with you to make this goal happen. Our job scheduling portal, LinguistLink, helps schools, governments, medical clinics, nonprofits find, manage linguists, handle job logistics. So, we have a system, and we've tried to think upstream, but we need you. We need your help, because ultimately we're partners working for the same goal, right? So in conclusion, I love this quote. I'm going to hang it on my wall. But this is said by Nelson Mandela. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. And I think a lot of you here who may not, who may have learned English can really relate to this, right? Really appreciate hearing those messages in your native language, especially when it really matters most. So, so that concludes our theme today. I don't know if you guys have any comments, thoughts, anything. You are welcome to put them in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that. But I also acknowledge we have a lot to cover today. So let me stop that share. Cool. All right. Any other comments, thoughts, anything that about Upstream? All right. Well, I got it in your minds. So now we're going to talk about some specifics about doing things upstream that'll help your process. So I've got Val here, who, let me introduce Val. Val works from our Juneau, Alaska campus. And she's been part of our team for 2 years. I kind of lost time in the pandemic, right? But 3 years maybe. Anyway, Val's been part of our team. She started out as doing interpretations, and she approached me and said, hey, I can do other things too. And boy, did we take advantage of that, right? So Val's been doing scheduling all of translation projects for us. and she is such a valuable team member. She like makes things happen, and now we couldn't function without her. So Val's here. She says she has a technical issue, but the person chatting with you isn't me, it's Chris. We're logged. I've got a doppelganger here.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Oh, great. I thought that I lost my sound for a moment.
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay.
So do you want to share your own slides? Would that work the best?
Yes, and before I find my slides real quick, can we do super quick introductions, because I'm realizing that I'm not familiar with some of the people who are present today. Maybe just name and what kind of connection you have to Mindlink.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Well, I'm Stacy, and I'm the owner of Mindlink. And Chieko, do you want to go next?
I could also go.
Oh, Patricia.
Yeah, I am happy to go because let me see if I can start my video.
Oh, do you? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you could just tell us who you are.
Oh, I see. So, I didn't get it. Does Val like to present a little later, or?
Oh no, we're just going around and telling who you are.
Oh, okay. So I'm Patricia, and I worked with Stacy for a really long time. But we started with quality assurance testing in different languages. So I worked with QA testing, with translation, and more recently with interpretation. And it's actually great because I learned something new and unique challenges related to interpretation, but I'll talk more about it in my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll go next real quick. My name is Valentina, and I'm the lead for the translations. And also I'm the Russian translator for the company. So when we don't have somebody available to do the work, I can definitely jump in and help out. And yeah, we work with a lot of clients, and my job includes scheduling all the projects and communicating with all the vendors if we have to go outside and so on. And I'll talk a little bit more about my role in the company in my presentation.
Oh, Patricia, you appeared. Awesome. Who's next? Chieko? Oh, yeah, there you are.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Chieko Duncan. I think everybody probably sometimes contacted me for the tech support. So you might know me through the email or the tickets through the Jira ticket. I'm the mainly support for the technical support with clients. However, but I create the systems and developing and changing the features and adding the new features from the users, input and any the comments that we need this feature and this feature doesn't work that I want to, and I'm the one that's solving the problem and put it on live for the linguistic. So any input will help us and help you in the same time. So I appreciate all your emails and inputs. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Maybe Felix? He's on my. Good to see you here, Felix.
Hey, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yes, I'm Felix Ramos. I'm a Spanish interpreter. I live in South Texas, South Potter Island, exact. I live by the coast, by the Gulf Coast anyway, so I go fishing almost every weekend. Well, anyways, yeah, I started with Mindlink services last year around I guess October, November, around there. I saw I think Miss Stacy. She put needed a Spanish interpreter for the educational setting around the Portland area and stuff like that. And since I had just left my job as a special education teacher, a resource teacher, and so man, it fit right on the spot when she put out there in Lincoln. So I applied, and sure enough, I got the job right away, and I'm very pleased with the company, with the agency. It's I had nothing but good things to say about it. I've done a lot of interpreting for the Portland, Oregon schools, and I get to know the people already. The principals and the directors, and the good thing about it, the good thing about it, they asked for me, and
I was gonna say, he's our probably highest requested interpreter. So
yeah,
we're lucky to have you, Felix.
yeah, I'm lucky to be here. So yes, and so I'm furthering my education. I am degreed. I have a bachelor's in Spanish and a minor in interpreting and translating, and I'm still getting more educational certifications here and there. And so yeah, I just finished taking a 25-hour course with TESOL. And so, which just helps me. And I just finished last week actually with Virginia of health, with health development. So yeah, I'm done with that one. That was like another, I think it was another 20 hours worth of mental health disabilities in the educational field. So I'm always learning. I'm always on top. Because I want to be good at this, because it is my passion, and working with a special education department, and especially interpreting. And it's a new field for me, but I enjoy it. I like it. I'm home. I take my breaks, and so, and but one thing I want to add to this here. I live in an area in Texas, in South Texas, where 90% of the teachers that live here in the Rio Grande Valley, they all do the like their IEP meetings and stuff like that. The teachers, bilingual teachers, they don't hire any interpreters.
Mhm.
So as myself and like other interpreters here in the Valley, we need to look to other agencies like yourself to get jobs.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure the state and the school districts, they get funds from the states in order to provide interpretation services for LEP parents,
Mhm.
but they don't hire us.
Yeah.
They don't hire us. And so my question is, how, as interpreters, how can we advocate for these parents, to let them know in our area, especially in our area, because I live just by the border of Mexico and Texas. So we have a lot of immigrants coming in daily by the hundreds, by the thousands, and the stuff. So anyways, how can we advocate? How can we, get our word out there to let them know, hey, look, you have your right. You have your right to choose an interpreter, because sometimes I really think that bilingual teachers only say what they want to say,
Mhm.
and then that leaves the LEP person without any say so. I mean, since they don't know the language, so they just say, okay, well, they just agree. But I'm pretty sure that they agree without even knowing exactly
Mhm.
what the process is. So yeah, that's why I'm here in this meeting, so I
Yeah.
can maybe
Yeah.
learn a little bit on this and stuff. So, well, anyways, I made my long story, my short story long. So yeah, I'm Felix from Texas, and I'm glad to
No,
be here.
thanks, Felix. And that's a big reason we picked this theme of working upstream, because what you're talking about, this is an upstream issue, right? Like,
Yes, it is.
we got to think about the system. Something isn't right,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, I think you're headed in the right space, and hopefully we'll go through our presentations today, and then at
Mhm.
the end maybe do some brainstorming.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. I'm
but
gonna
we
be
have
off,
some
off
we
and
have
on.
some
Yeah.
great people on this call right now who might have ideas. You're welcome to chat,
Great.
so awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Chris, do you want to say hi?
Sure. You can probably hear me through
Can you-
Stacy's microphone. I'm a high school student. I'm currently getting my associates in Japanese at my local community college. But I mainly just kind of manage like invoices and just kind of inputting numbers for Linguistling.
Yeah. If you notice an improvement in our invoicing, billing, all of that, it's because we have Chris now. She's my secret weapon. So cool. Now I want to just real quick, Laby, you're clapping, but Laby, do you want to say hi real quick? Optional to turn your camera on.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lady. I don't know if you can see me well, but I kind of schedule and coordinate for the services here in Central Oregon. So for Bend, Redmond, Kirk County, and Sisters.
Got a big job. Thank you, Laby. Jessica.
Hi there. My name's Jessica Nichols. I'm a student services coordinator. I'm also in Texas, Felix. So nice to meet you. I'm in the Austin area and working with a charter school system, and we need translation access. So here to kind of get the lay of the land, so to speak. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Karen.
Hi, I work with Laby and use LinguistLink and love it, but absolutely need to know more. And Jara invited me at lunch yesterday to attend today, and I was excited. So thank you for extending that invitation, Stacy. And it's a great program. I schedule for our school district through Laby, and it's phenomenal and best thing we ever did. So just knowledge is power, so just learning all about it today and what I'm doing wrong.
You're doing a lot right, Karen. I'm so glad you came.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And last but not least is Will.
Morning, everyone. I am Will Howell, the Communications Director at Portland Public Schools, and I oversee our language access program. I took it over somewhat abruptly in November from Mayor Sagar, who some of you may know, who built up in a really amazing program and has extensive expertise in the area. My extensive expertise is in communication, not so much language access. So it's been interesting few months of learning, and hopefully today adds to that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. All right. And there are a lot of people watching this recorded. There might be some people on YouTube right now. So hello to you. Anyway, Val, that took up a lot of your time, but I think it was worth it. So do you want to get into your presentation now?
Okay, I'm going to start sharing the screen. Can you see it okay?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, 1 second.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, there we go. So, like I mentioned, I'm the lead for the translation in our company, and we work with a lot of clients and vendors. And my job is to help all the stakeholders who are participating in the process to get connected, to get the best results done. So, on this slide, you can see the list of the languages that are the top 9 languages spoken in the metro area. And this is only 9 languages, but they actually support pretty much any language. And if you don't have internal resources, we can always connect to other vendors and find somebody who can do the job. So a lot of languages going on. And I wanted to mention also that our company, the reason why I like working for it and it makes me feel so comfortable. Everybody has some interpreting or translating experience and speaks a foreign language. It makes such a difference to feel, home all the time. So in our company, we use a very comprehensive process to ensure the quality of our translations. So the main stakeholders in the process are the requester, and then we have schedulers like myself who evaluate the need for the translation and connects to the right vendors. And so we have translators, reviewers. Sometimes we use desktop publishers and also quality assurance teams. So when I get a translation request, it's actually not a very easy, A to B line where I know how the translation will go. Sometimes, we get very simple requests, but a lot of times actually I have to think very carefully about how to set up a project to make sure that all the deadlines are met, the quality is assured, and so on. So I have a list here, checklist for the client that you can use before you send a translation for us. So it's very important to think about the deadlines and volume of the work, because if you need it, say like Stacy was saying, if you need a translation of a big volume to be done in 3 days, you have to be very realistic about this request, because translators usually can do up to about 3,000 words a day. So just thinking about realistic deadlines, then the client can think about the estimate and the quote approval. How do you do that? Who do you contact? How much time does it require to get an approval from your internal maybe manager to do the translation? Then you have to think about the language specifications. For example, if you submit a request for Chinese language, is it simplified? Is it traditional? Same applies to interpreting, is it some kind of dialect you want to use, or so on. So you have to think about these little details ahead of time. Then it's always nice to use style guides and terminology and provide specific instructions for terms that remain in English. For example, a lot of times we don't translate geographical names or logos. So it's always useful to provide this information up front. Then one of the things that we always kind of struggle is the format of the document. So if it's a Word document, it's very easy to set it up. But if we get InDesign files, you have to be sure that you have all the correct information that we will need to help you produce the translation. So we need the document packages, fonts, and links. Recently, what we started doing with a lot of clients is we use different platforms to provide the translations, like Canva, for example. So you have to think ahead of time about giving us access to this platform so that we can go in there and directly input the translation when it's done. And you have to think about, do you need the quality assurance, for a PDF document or something that goes for print. You have to think about your delivery preferences, how and when you're going to do billing and invoicing. And it's always helpful to have, especially for big projects, it's very helpful to have meetings to debrief about the best practices that you can use. And it can be done before you do the project, or you can do it after. But the bottom line is that it's always nice to have feedback from all the parties involved, and that assures a good quality translation. So, like I mentioned, the quality of the source text is actually very important for the quality of the translations. It's nice to have the style guides, allow plenty of time for preparing your documents and make realistic expectations. And we do accept rush project requests, and we are happy to assist when we have the team members. But at the same time, we have to realize that you know, sometimes it cannot be the case. So allowing plenty of time to complete the work is always nice. Oh, I have an example here of something that actually relates to the document size. You have to sometimes think about what language you're going to translate it into. For example, Russian and Spanish translations, they expand by about 15 to 30%. So if you have a document that had to fit 1 page or 2 pages, you have to kind of accommodate for that and allow us to reduce the font, or, you know, understand that not all languages are the same as English. So the end product can look a little bit different. And for Chinese, actually compared to Russian and Spanish, the text reduces by about 10%. So the translation may not look the same. And these are kind of the things that you may not know upfront, but as you work a lot in the translation business, you actually learn a lot of these things. Then this slide is about the expectations. So I mentioned this before, that usually individual linguists can do about 2,000 to 3,000 words per day, and they probably can do more. But if you want to have a quality translation, it's better to keep in mind that this is the average rate for the translation. And also this slide is talking about how do you have to incorporate the cultural differences, understand that some content cannot be directly translated from English, and we have to use transcreation. And sometimes when we submit the translations back to the client, they run back translations or Google Translate, and they say, hey, this doesn't look like the English source. But you have to realize that this may be due to the fact that in different languages we express the same ideas in a different way. So it may not be possible to have an equivalent, exact equivalent of English phrase in another language. And also I wanted to mention that at Linguist, we use the best teams, and we have a lot of US-based translators, and also for rare languages, sometimes we have to reach out to people who live in the communities where these rare languages are spoken, and they're very helpful for us in the process. So when I get a translation request, I actually have to think about the same kind of things. What are the deadlines? What is the volume? What is the word count? Who are the best translators I can use for this particular job? What is the format? What kind of workflow should I set up to complete work? I have to think, whether we will need the desktop publishing or quality assurance team. And I have to communicate about all these details to my team members so that they know ahead of time that, we only have 5 days to complete a big job, but we have 5 members that are going to be included in this process. So we have to think very carefully about how much time everybody needs, how do we work as a team. So I always have to think about the big picture, about all the details. Here are the workflow examples that we use at Mindlink. A lot of them are, of course, translation and revision, but there are also some other workflows that we can follow. For example, you can do translation, revision, proofreading, and then the client may request to do the back translation or two parallel back translations. So depending on the needs of the client and the type of document we translate, we can modify that information. At Mindlink, to ensure the quality of the translations, we use two different management systems. We have administrative part, which is Linguist-Link. That's where you can create your project, submit your proposal, assign the jobs, do all the invoicing. And then we also have a system called WordBee. That's actually where the majority of our translations happen. So once in a while, our translators do the work in the Word document or directly in the document. But I would say that in about 90% of the time, they have to go through the WordBee translation management system. That's our comprehensive system where we count the words, we do all the cost and invoicing. And then the best feature of the system is actually the translation memory. So for many years that we have been using the program, we actually created very comprehensive translation memory. And if you come to us with a document that is slightly modified from the last year, we never have to translate the same content again. So that saves time, that saves money and effort for everyone. And so also it's very convenient because when you have a project that say you have to translate one document into 19 different languages that just happened to us in May. We had to translate a big flyer for the Portland Parks and Recreations. And, you know, we don't send this one document to by email or anything like that. We use our comprehensive WordBee system where we set up the project and then we assign the jobs, and the same document goes out to 19 linguists, and then we collect the work back and then we format it and go from there. Okay, what else did I want to say? Oh, one of excuse me, one of the new services that we started offering to our clients in the last, I would say, year and a half is that we work with our clients on the terminology banks and glossaries. And that helps us a lot because when we get a new translation, for example, for Parks and Recreation, we don't have to sit down and like create new term every time. We just create a group of translators for each language, agreed on how a specific term will be translated from now on. Then it went into revision by the internal committee in the Parks and Recreation. Then we collectively decided that you know, this particular term will be translated this way from now on. And I think it actually helps a lot the quality of the translations. So to summarize everything, this is a very short presentation of how we set up our translation work here at Mindlink. And if you have any questions, now it's time to ask, please. We are running a little bit behind, but still have a little room for questions, I believe. Anyone?
If you guys do think of something, again, the chat's available. And of course, you can always contact us. We'll answer your questions. We're going to talk more about WordBee this afternoon in our breakout room. So if you're kind of interested in that, join us. Patricia, how are you doing? Are you want to jump in, or?
I think I can make it. I think
Okay.
this is fine.
Okay.
I can share my screen.
All right. I'm going to introduce Patricia real quick. You know, as she mentioned, she's our she's doing a lot of, we're a small company, so everybody does a lot of things. But in addition to, she's kind of a primary scheduler of interpreters. She works a lot with the schools. Lately, she's been really focused on Portland Public Schools, filling in for maternity leave for them. But she's also, works really closely with Labie, as needed. And so she's super valuable. Like she said, we go back a long ways, and I was super happy to have her join us. And now she's opening our Austin campus of Mindlink resources, which is awesome because Jessica's there too. So
you feel like it's really meaningful and you try to help. It's not just a scheduling job. That's how I see it now. And that's where it fits within education that's becoming more inclusive, which is a great thing. It's inclusive means more students come from diverse background, and it leads to a multicultural environment. However, just placing children from the diverse backgrounds into the classroom doesn't always have the best positive outcome. It needs a lot of thinking and planning. And I think like interpretation, which is facilitating communication through language, I think this plays a really important role in this framework. And that's what I want to talk about. Before I talk a little bit about the challenges and how to best plan interpretation based on what we noticed, I wanted to explain again, and I know many of you are familiar, but just to remind you the difference, the two modes of interpretation are consecutive and simultaneous. There are variations, but these are the basic modes. And that's really, really important. That's where you start when you plan an interpretation. Both of them refer to bridging language barriers in spoken language, but there are very important differences. Consecutive interpretation, in this mode, you listen to, let's say in a school setting, you would listen to the teacher and you can take notes. You listen to a few thoughts, you can take notes, and then you tell that to the parent in their language, and then you convey back to the teacher what the parent says. So there are small breaks in between where some interpreters take notes, and it's not very fast. So typically one interpreter is enough. And most consecutive meetings are small meetings, not a lot of people involved. In the school setting, it's typically parent and teacher. Sometimes the students are there as well. And so a lot of special education meetings are consecutive. Simultaneous, on the other hand, is when the interpreter will speak at the same time as the requester. So it's just a few seconds delay, and the interpreter will speak in his native language and typically to a wider audience. So simultaneous interpretation is usually for larger events. And because it is the time factor is so important, there are no breaks. Basically, the interpreter will speak at the same time as the speaker. Typically, they won't do a simultaneous interpretation by themselves. You have usually two interpreters who will switch back and forth. So you do 20-30 minutes and then take a break, and the second interpreter will continue. So the setting is different and also the mode of interpretation. And that's really important to keep in mind when you start planning. The interpreter's job can be stressful. So, what I notice is that it's really important to plan well and to make sure you remove all the hurdles before the interpretation actually starts. Because unlike other linguistic projects like translations or QA in interpretation, the timing is so important that any problem becomes extremely urgent and difficult to handle in the very last minute. And I'll give a few tips and explanations how we found, by scheduling a lot of meetings, how we found we can do a good interpretation and plan well so that it is successful in the end. So before the meeting starts, the first part is to decide if simultaneous or consecutive is the best mode for the meeting. And I already talked about it a little bit, how to decide on that. And whenever the requester is not sure, we are really happy to help with the planning. So we do more than just scheduling meeting. We talk with requesters, with teachers, and we help as much as we can. The next step is to decide if the meeting should be in person or virtual. Virtual typically would be a video meeting like we are doing today. So in person or virtual, I know that a lot of teachers want in-person interpretation because it's so nice to see everyone and to have everyone in the same place. If you schedule an in-person meeting, you always add the school address, but I recommend in the project description so that it's the first thing the interpreter sees, to give more tips. Like not just the school, they come to a large school and they don't know where to go. They always add the room number. Where exactly is the interpreter expected? Or do they just go to the main office at the entrance? Add the phone number, like a contact from the school that the interpreter can call if they have a small delay or a quick questions or don't find the room immediately. Whom can they call? I mean, of course they have our contact and we help, but we would contact you and ask, while if they contact the school directly, it goes faster. So, and any other tips if the parking is an issue or anything else that the interpreter can know so that there are no problems to reach the place. And if the meeting is virtual, you need to include the meeting link, and it's a good idea to actually click on the link and make sure it works, because sometimes you create a link and when you copy and paste, sometimes if a letter gets cut off or any other problem with the link, then the interpreter will try to log in and immediately panic. The link is not working. Am I in the wrong meeting? What happened? And so that's one thing. Check the link and share it with the interpreter. Invite the interpreter to the meeting. We always, for virtual meetings, we always give an email address, either the interpreter or the interpreter team. So if you share the meeting, then you know they accepted and everything should go well. I think this is what you can do. And another tip, in person and virtual, even if in person is preferred, it's always good to keep in mind, would it be possible to do the meeting virtually? Would that even work? Because let's say you request a meeting a week in advance and then nothing happens and the meeting is tomorrow. At that point, you wonder, will I find an interpreter? And it's really good to be flexible and think, if the meeting could be done over video, let's try to switch, because video interpretation opens the door to a much wider team. We can send it to a lot more interpreters, and the chance to confirm an interpreter for the meeting increases a lot. So it's always good to keep both in mind and think if you could be flexible or not. And the last thing that you can always add to a meeting is share some background information, any materials interpreters could read, is there specific terminology, any meeting notice, anything. And that's especially helpful for simultaneous interpretation. Here's some more tips. Flexibility, I already talked about it. Recurrent or follow-up meetings. Sometimes you had a really good meeting, the family connected well with the interpreters. If you have a recurrent meeting or follow-up, add in the description, we prefer this interpreter. And I mean, we cannot guarantee that the same interpreter will come, but what we do in such situation is that we first propose to the interpreter that you mention, and only if they are not available, we open it to the whole team. For simultaneous meetings, consider sometimes there is more planning involved, sometimes you need specific equipment, so keep everything in mind and request it in advance so we have time to plan for it. In terms of project management, keep everyone in the loop about project changes. Use the feature, it's a good feature for open communication and message to all so that everyone gets updated, including the interpreters, and keep the schedulers in the loop. Like, we can edit the project, we can make any change to the project. We will always reach out to the interpreters and let them know project changes. So we are there to help. Yes. And some last thoughts about interpretation and planning. What I thought helps is to think like an interpreter. If you were the interpreter for your project, what would help you prepare best? Any background materials, what tips? What I was thinking is, we have a standard process and we help you with submitting and creating projects. Once you do it a few times, it's easy, it becomes routine. But even within that routine, there are always specific things to each meeting that we wouldn't know. And if you keep that in mind, for my meeting, there is an issue about the family, and if the interpreter is aware, it helps prepare. So always keep in mind what would help the interpreter and add it. Or if you can't edit a meeting and add, let the scheduler know. We will add it and we will connect with the interpreter and explain anything for the background. And I think this is really important for interpretation because it's really fast. With interpretation, you can't really extend the deadline like we do for other linguistic projects. So it's really important to have everything planned well before the meeting starts. I mean, sometimes it happens that the meeting is starting and the interpreters are texting me to ask something last minute, and that makes it stressful, and they are not able to concentrate if they are texting, and that may still happen. We just try to prevent issues and remove hurdles. It can still happen, but what we can do is to think and plan each meeting carefully to make sure our interpretations are successful, and the families feel well supported. And yeah, I still made it on time. My presentation was a little shorter, but we are back on track with timing.
Good job. And thank you. That was really some good tips. Like I said in the chat, I'll send you guys all these slides because these are going to be things, you know, you might want to share around or kind of, you know, pass along to other people in your organization that might need to request interpreters. So I think we all deserve a little break. You know, there's been a lot this morning. So what we'll do is it's 10:20. Sorry, I'm just kind of it's 10:20. So let's come back at 10:30. And then I have we have a presentation from Agnes, who is our media specialist at Mindlink, and she's going to talk about media and how to provide that inclusive media. And then Chieko's going to give some tips and tricks about some technical stuff you could be doing. And then that will conclude our morning session. So let's all just take, I'm just going to like pause everything here, take 10 minutes. You know, go get a drink of water, take care of whatever, and then we'll be back at 10:30. All right, see you guys.
Stacy, again, how does it work? You don't have to reconnect. It will just
Yeah, no,
stay
I'm just
there.
gonna leave it up.
Okay.
Just mute
Awesome.
yourself, go do your thing, and then come back.
Thank you. See you later.
All right, we'll see you in a bit. Hello. All right, hopefully everybody's on their way back. All right, is everybody back? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay, Jessica's back. Labie and Karen. We lost Felix and Will had to go, but they're gonna watch later. Labie's back. Okay. All right, but so what I'm gonna do, Agnes could not join us live today, but she did record a presentation for us, which I am excited to share. So let's do that. Let me make sure I'm sharing the sound. Okay. All right. So without any further ado, let's learn about inclusive and accessible media.
And media specialist at Mindlink.
Oh, let me rewind it. There we go.
Hello, my name is Agnes.
Can everybody hear?
I am a project scheduler and media specialist at Mindlink Resources, and I will be your host during this short webinar about inclusive and accessible media. So let's dive right into it. The agenda for today is introduction, subtitles versus closed captions, benefits of subtitles, how does it work? So a quick peek behind the curtain, subtitle fails, everybody's favorite, and a summary. So for the beginning, some statistics. In 2023, over 80% of internet traffic consists of video content. It's one of the best ways to reach your audience, connect with clients, customers, and share news and content. I think you are probably well aware of some of those numbers, since we all live in the world where videos are really prevalent in our everyday lives. Here are some online statistics. The number of digital video viewers worldwide is expected to reach 3.5 billion. In 2023, people are watching on average 17 hours of online videos per week. People are 52% more likely to share video content than any other type of content, and 75% of viewers watch short-form video content on their mobile devices. So subtitles versus closed captions. I think that the two are often mistaken, and people don't actually realize what the difference is. So let's start with the subtitles. Subtitles are used to translate speech on a video, and they're generally intended for people who don't understand the language of the video. Therefore, all speech is translated into another language. Moreover, only the spoken words in the video are transcribed. So anything that is being said is essentially transcribed and turned into subtitles. On the other hand, closed captions transcribe what is said, but they also transcribe background sounds like music or other noises that may be important for understanding what is happening. In this case, they're intended for someone who either can't hear the video or doesn't want to hear the video. For example, when someone is in a crowded train and doesn't want to bother other passengers, also you may want to turn on closed captions in a hospital, library, where you cannot really or don't want to have the sound up. or in a high volume. More statistics. What surprised me the most, I think, when I first learned about that was you usually think about maybe closed captions or subtitles being used by older people or people who have some degree of hearing loss. And it turns out that actually those older people, baby boomers, turn on the subtitles. Only 35% of them turn on the subtitles. And look at the Generation Z, so the youngest people, 70% of them turn on the subtitles. So it's, to me, it was an eye-opener, really, that we reach wide audience by allowing them to use subtitles, and not just the older people. Actually, it's quite different. Transcribe videos in Spanish, Vietnamese, simplified Chinese, and Russian. These are our 4 most popular languages. However, we can do it in pretty much any language required by the customer, and we're happy to do it. For education literacy purposes and better understanding, people prefer to watch videos with subtitles because they understand them better. Not everyone learns in the same way. Some people need to see things while others need to listen. If the video has subtitles, you can be sure that everyone will receive the intended message regardless of their learning preference. And I actually fall into that group. I do understand English. However, I will admit that some English accents are, especially the, let's say, Scottish accent, is really difficult for me to understand. I remember working at the Grand Canyon and having a tourist from Scotland, and she asked me, it sounded like, "What's your favorite nearest tune?" And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is she asking me about my favorite music, my favorite nearest artist who plays music? I had no idea. And after asking her to repeat that for embarrassing 3 or 4 times, I finally just asked her, can you please write down your question, even though she was standing right in front of me. And it turned out that she was asking about the nearest town. So here's a case in point for you. And I find that many other people use subtitles, even though they do understand English, just for better understanding, to expand their vocabulary, learning purposes. All of that falls into this category. Subtitles boost the search engine ranking. So obviously it's crucial to provide high quality content that not only do your customers like, but they also learn something from. Your content should also provide added value. Let's not forget that your goal is probably also to secure a good ranking on search engines. If you reach a lot of people and they watch the whole video until the end, it will help increase your ranking on Google. What's more, subtitles also help to secure a better positioning on search engines, as Google indexes subtitles on videos. However, it doesn't index closed captions that are added automatically, like those you can add to YouTube videos. So you actually need to provide a transcribed text in order for that to be factored in. And consumer preference, 69% of consumers prefer to watch videos without sound when in public, and 25% prefer to do so in private, according to a study by Verizon Media. At the same time, 80% of these consumers prefer videos with subtitles. So anytime you are in a public space, in a hospital, library, plane, a train, or simply you don't want to bother other people around you, that's when you turn on subtitles and mute the sound. So let's talk a little bit about how does it work. I'll take you on a short tour how we do it here at Mindlink. So when we receive a request for subtitling, we typically get a video without a script. It does happen, however, quite rarely that a customer has a script already prepared. But obviously it's nice to receive one, but if we don't have it, we just have a raw video, we are able to transcribe it. We use a software called Sonics to turn speech into text. And it's a great program. It works with a variety of languages. Usually we get videos in English, and we are asked to provide transcripts in English and then translations in other languages. But occasionally we work with videos in Spanish, and Sonics is set up in a way that we can transcribe text in Spanish with a pretty good results. Of course, the transcription quality depends on various factors such as the clarity of sound, background noise, how clearly people speak, etc. And we always do the transcription cleanup to make sure the script is free of errors and inaccuracies. So however good you think the quality of the sound is, the software doesn't pick up 100% on certain details. So this is when we come in, the human factor, and we make sure that this transcription is really error-free and true to what is being said in a video. This is the cleaned up version. So as you can see, we already added names. There are time segments, so it's not just lumped into one 5-minute long chunk, but it's broken into segments depending on who speaks. We can then generate an SRT file, and this is what we send to our translators. When we receive translated files in SRT format, we use Subtitle Edit, that's another program, to fix timing issues, breaks, etc. We adhere to industry standards of 2 caption lines per screen. And after that, we send the video with the subtitles for QA. So as you can see, there are several steps involved in creating subtitles. And each step is really important. I wouldn't skip any one of them. We want to make sure that our clients receive a really high quality product that's free of errors. As you can see, as you will see in a moment, the errors do happen and they can make a big difference. After implementing our reviewers' edits, we give it one final look. We want to make sure the subtitles are in a perfect shape, and we send it to our client. This is a side-by-side look at the finalized SRT files in English and Russian. So you have English on the left and Russian on the right. And this is what you would plug in to your video to create subtitles. Now, let's take a look at some mistakes. Of course, they do happen, but we do our best to avoid them. And as you can see, this is the screenshot from the movie Avengers. Let's see what we have. Tell me what you need. My next goal. I need a bait and eyeliner. Probably not exactly what was being said in the movie, but if they can save the world with that, all power to them. How do you spell Benedict Cumberbatch? Well, there's a creative spelling for you of his last name, Benedict Cumberbatch. That was obviously done during the live breakfast TV show, I believe, and that's what the software picked up on and turned his last name into Cumberbatch. Then another screenshot from Friends, machine gun fire like laughter. I think her name was Janice, and I heard her laugh, I think once or twice, but I still remember that laughter. And I think it's pretty accurate, actually, machine gun fire like laughter, the description. Maybe not necessarily necessary in this context, but quite accurate. And here's a little bit about punctuation. So we pay attention to it too, obviously. Comma can make a big difference between let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma. So there you go. In summary, at Mindlink Resources, we believe the subtitles are only going to become more popular. We have seen a steady increase in subtitling demand over the last several years. And this is really true. We probably 7-8 years ago, we haven't really had any request for video subtitling. And over the last 2 to 3 years, it really picked up. And we have various clients asking us to provide that service. We are staying up to date with the latest trends and practices. We take part in different online webinars ourselves and training sessions with industry professionals. In our portfolio, we have subtitle videos for clients such as Portland Water Bureau, Portland Parks, Metro, Idaho Commission on the Arts, and many more. Whether you want to share news about your organization, market your services, or connect with your audience, we're here to help you achieve it. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach to us. There's my email address. Feel free to visit our website. Again, my name is Agnes Konkel, and I thank you for taking the time to listen to me rambling on the subtitles. And I hope to hear back and receive some feedback from you. Thank you.
That was so good, Agnes. Again, she couldn't be with us live, but I will say about Agnes, like she said at the end, the subtitle thing, certainly during the pandemic, we started, because of the remote meetings and things like that, we started getting some requests for this, and we're always up for a new challenge, and Agnes had been serving as our QA lead for a few years. Agnes goes back to, she's been with me since almost the beginning of Mindlink. So, and it's been crucial to our organization. So she was serving as our QA lead. And so I approached her when we started getting some requests, and I was like, what do you think? Should we learn about subtitling? Not only did she learn about it, she's now kind of an expert on subtitling. And there's always new things to learn as well, but we've done some really cool projects around that. And if that's not something you're currently doing for like your school district or your organization, you should think about it, because it's really an easy way to provide inclusive content. And it's, you get a lot of bang for your buck with subtitling. So highly recommend it if you're not currently subtitling. That I'm going to tell Agnes my only complaint about her video is she didn't add subtitles to it. But we will when we get it posted on YouTube after the fact. So you can see how that works. All right. So last but not least, how you doing, Chieko? Oh,
Yeah, I'm good.
there you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're doing great on time.
Is anyone have a question towards the previous three, presentation?
Yeah.
Like Jessica, Levi, Karen, do you have any question?
Any questions, any comments, anything you want to think about?
Before going to technical part.
I have a question here in the room from Chris. Yes.
This is more of a comment, but when it comes to subtitles,
Can you hear her?
they're actually becoming more and more relevant, especially in like media, like movies or videos, because back when for the talkies initially came out, the talking pictures, actors really had to project, get the sound out there, and part of good acting was being able to project. But now that we have so many more microphones, they can go in and change sound after the fact. How much an actor projects or how the microphone picks it up, they're not as worried about anymore. So it's come to bring forward a lot quieter performances, which especially people with like hearing disabilities or even just myself, I find it really hard if I don't have like earbuds in or something. If I'm watching something on TV, I always have to have subtitles because I can't hear what's going on. So yeah, it's just with technology improving, unfortunately, being able to hear it has somewhat regressed.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I use them a lot when I'm watching like British shows, like what Agnes was saying about Scottish. I'm a native English speaker and I would have had to do the same thing. And so I tend to turn them on, or just like shows that might have quieter dialogue, or certainly in other languages. But I loved her funny examples because now that we're in the subtitle working on subtitles more, I observe them more like when I'm watching Netflix or something, and you can see some funny things. You're like, they clearly didn't use Mindlink for their subtitles on this video. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, you don't even have to be like a Hollywood level, like this training will add subtitles to, and it will make it more inclusive. And certainly we want to include any deaf, hard of hearing, people, that this is as important as language, when we think about language access, the ASL interpreting is a big part of that. So, and providing subtitles is an easy way, or captions too. But that's a whole thing. Anyway, so Chieko, why don't you give us some tips, and if we finish early, then we'll just get a little longer lunch.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, how can I share my presentation?
You should be able to share it.
Oh, share screen.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a moment.
Okay.
Let me, here you go. This is the one. Okay. Thank you. Share the presentation. Is this one? I hope this is the one. Yes. This one. Okay. Are you able to see my screen right now? The slide?
Yes, we are.
Oh, good. Start the slide. Interesting. Hold on.
It's over in the right. It's kind of the way over. There's a slideshow button, the Google Drive.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
it was different than
I
what
know, they
I
change
was
it all the
practicing
time.
yesterday. Thank you.
Mhm,
Thank
you're
you.
good.
Thank you so much. So I created this presentation towards the working upstream, the theme. And I'm Chieko Duncans, and I'm a Mindlink Resources, the system developer manager, and also I introduced myself earlier, Linguist technical support. And I was a linguist, and I became a project manager and start using more for the Linguist. And then I went to college for the computer science and become developer. So I know what the linguist, needs for the system. And also I think I know more about how the scheduler wants to use our linguist. So I think overall my history of becoming my developer actually helped me to help the linguistic link websites. So here's a tips to optimize your email inbox. I want to, introduce more about linguist link. However, I think the more email solutions could be useful to all the user, including the linguist and scheduler and limited user requested. So I created this site. Okay. So tips to optimize your email inbox. So if you feel once or many times receiving so many emails from Linguist Link, then I think that you should learn just 5 or 10 minutes. You can use these tips to optimize your email inbox. So I'm not very sure what the email services everyone uses, but many companies in the organization use the Gmail platform. So I think I like to introduce some of the tips. So in Gmail, there is a feature that you can automatically move your emails to folder in Gmail. So when you try to search it and go to the up hand side, there is a slide mark that is you can find the filters setting. And to me, I click the apply the label. This is when you receive the email, you can automatically assign the new label. So like if you receive that you are assigned to this project, or you are receiving the project is completed, you can, there is an email title has a the same titles we use. So you can copy and paste the title and apply the label. This feature automatically do it. And the Gmail official help page tells you how to do step by step. But when I go through it, there is a lot of reading. So there is a WikiHow tell you more easier what to do, how to automatically move emails to folders. There's a link in the second one. And there is a YouTube video. If you like more like, video and learning, there is a videos too. And also, if you are not using the Gmail, like Yahoo Mail, Outlook, AOL Mail, and iPhone and Apple product have iCloud Mail, and some, I think, Chinese one, Yandex Mail, and in Japan, it is popular Hotmail as well. I'm sure in US, there is many Hotmail users as well. If you want to know how to move the emails to folders, you can use this automatically move emails to folders in a search with Google or any web browser to search it. And then in Yahoo or in Outlook, and you can find the tips how to do that too. Okay, so the early announcements to tackle the future projects beforehand, early announcements might help you to, control the the future volumes, you need to tackle them. Are you expecting to have large amounts of interpretation requests in a month? So I know there is many schools have a parent-teacher conference in October or November. Some schools has in the end of the September. If you already know there is a lot of the interpreter meeting needed, then I strongly recommend to put the announcement on the Linguist-Link, so that that tells all the Linguist-Link user, oh, I need to request for the interpretation as early possible, so you can put the announcement. Okay, so announcements is a tool in Linguist-Link that allows scheduler to post information and updates to all the requesters and limited users of an account directly in Linguist-Link. So your announcements is customizable per account. So it is not over all the Linguist-Link users will see. It is not that way. Only your account users will see, so you can customize. So the account-wide announcement will be shown in my projects page. You will see here account announcement in between the yellow section, and below is my project. In the middle, there is account announcement. So it's time to plan ahead to our parent-teacher conference 2023. Please submit before September 20th. So we have time enough to find all the interpreters. So you can put your announcements right here. Okay. Oh, hold on a moment. Before going here, if you are requesters and if you see there is no announcement showing up, you might contact your scheduler, account scheduler. They can put the announcement. So please remind each other if you like the announcement. Okay, let's go. This early reminder. Are you expected to have large amounts of interpretation requests in a month? So this is the same situation. So announcement is useful as well. But if you simply want to remind the requester, or in do you have any interpretation requests, a lot of them coming, and then you can remind to requesters, as well as requester can remind the schedulers. Scheduler can also send a message to selected requesters and limited users, which sends email notification as well to them when a new message is posted to the Linguist-Link. So this is where you can exchange those reminders. When you click this is the Linguist-Link. This is a limited user and requesters view. When you click the announcement, my inbox, conversation pages will show, and you can create a message, and after created the message and submit, you will see the manage participants. In there is a drop down. Your only schedulers will show, so you can click the scheduler you want to remind and select, and you can send a message to the scheduler. Also, if you created the project for some event, and you need 10 more language, or 10 more meetings coming to similar project, you can request a message from here. It is called the message scheduler button. It is lime green. Do you see that? And you can send a message to your account scheduler from the project page as well. So you have two places you can send a message. Okay. Do you have any question so far? Okay, let's go to the next one. So pre-event day prep, web browser tips. So you probably have meetings on the day if you have a parent-teacher conference or any big meetings. You have 10 o'clock, 10:15, and next interpreter needed at 11, 11:15, 11:30. There is 5, 6, 7 meetings ahead. How will you prep it? So this is the web browser tips for it. So if you have more than 3 consecutive meetings lined up for you, then I would encourage you to use these tips. You can prep your web meetings and meeting information pages ready and lined up for event meeting ahead of time. Keep the tabs on your tab in Google Chrome. This is a good the blog page, the Google Chrome, the Google support site provide. So you can click this and show you the how to do it. So this is an example. You will see I have so many linguistic mark and document open, a Slack chat, and some other project page, and I did Google research. I have so many tabs open. And when you have a meeting coming up 3 or 4 or 5, sometimes 10 meetings on a day, how you prep it? You can click the page and there is other tab to new group from 1 to 3. You can click that. How to show this one? You can not double click, right click and click the other tab to the new group. And I added the title of the tab as the PTC, the Parent Teacher Conference /2023 October 10th. So if I have a meeting on October 10th, 11th, and 12th, so I would create 3 tab group. And the first one is the PTC 2023 October 10th. And I put in a purple. And if you have more meetings, so the next over is the linguistic mark. And the next over is the red circle. That is a meeting link I open from there. And next linguistic, that's the project page of the appointment information. And next one is the appointment, the Google Meet links. So I open up from the 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and open the event meeting URL. Then I added the tab to the group. So you can open the tab and you have the present meetings all ready for you for a day. You might want to do this the day before before the event or the schedule starting up. So this is really helpful, and I use this for when I do the technical support from the morning to afternoon. If I have a 10 supporting the sessions, I use these tips. Okay, so it happened to me. I closed the tab because I thought I can reopen again. And it was a little difficult because I couldn't find how to close tab group and reopen it. So here's a step-by-step guide for reopening the closed tab group, how to reopen the closed tab group. So this link tells you how to reopen the closed tab. So no worry if it happens to you. Okay, so this is a little different than what I thought. I thought when I click the right click some new page and it show the tab, it was not like that. So when you see from the top on the right side, the X mark and square and underscore and the arrow down, that one you click it and they will show you all the closed one. And I type in PTC, that is my tab name, the part of the tab name. So PTC 2023 October Those one is show up when you click the bottom one. 6 tabs 6 minutes ago, I closed 6 minutes ago. So that one show up all the tabs for you. So this is how to do it. Okay. So far I explained about the tips about the email and the reminder and how to use a tab. If you have any LinguistLink related technical help, you can access to this LinguistLink technical support page by clicking the nearby the LinguistLink mark. There is the home and how does it work. You see get help like ambulance mark. Click that will open the LinguistLink support page and open the technical support. You can reach me reach us the technical support team directly. And this one is very easy to manage all the questions. So please use that whenever you have any question. And if you have urgent matter, you can call us this number and email us if it's not urgent. Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Then I think my session is done. Thank you very much for listening. Stacia, I get back to you.
I did not know that about that little arrow of getting your closed things back.
Oh, good to know.
So thank you. And actually, that's a really good idea to use groups in that way.
Yeah.
So
I use it and it's helpful. So I wanted to share.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that. That was really great. Yeah, and Chieko has some new features. I know Laby for sure is interested in seeing, so make sure Laby you hit her session this afternoon after lunch. And Karen too. I shouldn't leave you out because I know you will need to know as well. Cool. Well, you guys, this has been a fantastic morning, and we really appreciate those of you here live, also those watching the recording. We love your participation. We love that you're here. We love that you care. So yeah, awesome. What we're gonna do now is take a break. Go have lunch, go check your email, go take care of stuff, and then we'll come back at 1 Pacific time, which is 3 for Texas, right? I think so. So we'll come back and we'll do some breakout sessions and learn a few more things. And these are going to be a little less formal. So, come ready to participate, discuss, etc. And then, yeah, we'll call it good. And then we could come back together, maybe do a little brainstorming if there's time. So thank you all. This has been fantastic.
Yeah,
and I'll go ahead and I'll keep the meeting up so you don't have to close out. Just pause everything, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
See you later.